All praises to the Most High Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS who rule well. Shalom to the hopeful elect. I just want to go into how the Most High is complete balance and how fasting, when you weary your flesh, you exalt, or should I say, when you humble your flesh, you exalt, the spirit, because again, the Most High is a pure balance. And I'm going to start off with Wisdom of Solomon here. For these thou didst admonish and try as a father, but the other as a severe king thou didst condemn and punish. So right now we're seeing, the so-called Israelites waking up. Not so-called, they are Israelites. My apologies for that. We're seeing that, the Israelites waking up, but we're seeing, the heathens being admonished and condemned, because, once you wake up, you're not really a part of this world, but you will be admonished and you will be tried, as go through the fire. And you see people being condemned and punished because they're part of this world and they're going to perish with this world. So, as Elder Yashawamba likes to go into it, he likes to make mention of the fact that, in one hand, on his right hand, he's lifting up, the Israelites. On his other, he's condemning the heathen, and you can see that as an example and expression of the Lord's complete righteousness, and his ability to be a complete judge, and how he does everything in balance of one another, And I'm going to start off with Matthew 4:2 here. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward unhungered. And this is talking about Yahweh Shai, when he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and he was tempted of the devil. And just to talk about fasting, the more you do it, the easier it is, because I've gone on, say, a 3-day fast, and my belly's not grumbling as much as it would do from me even doing a 2-day fast. And I've realized it's just a bit of advice for people who want to fast and humble themselves, and exalt their spirit. But it's like, when you're fasting, it's best to start off your fast in the right way, because there were times I'd fast and I'd get, I'd drink wine, or I'd get quote unquote drunk, before my fast, and it actually affect my physiology and my biology, the day after and the day after that. I wouldn't feel as great as I would do otherwise. Another thing I've noticed as well, when you put off ejaculating, because you're meant to, when you're with a woman, you're actually quote unquote unclean, and I think, in my opinion, it's best to abstain from sex before you begin your fast, like even a day or two before. Or if you're gonna have sex, for the men out here, I'm speaking from a male's perspective. I don't know if women watch this, but from a primarily a male perspective, when you ejaculate, it actually makes you feel weaker. So when you go into your fast without ejaculating, you feel much better. And I don't know whether or not brothers want to try this, but when I used to have my woman, I might have had sex with her, and I'm not trying to be vulgar, I might have had sex with her and I wouldn't ejaculate, and when you do things like that, because you're just pleasuring your woman, it's not necessarily about you all the time, when you don't ejaculate, you actually realize how vain, the act of sex is, because you've had sex but you've not ejaculated, and you might do whatever with your woman, and she might ejaculate, or whatever the case may be, and she's gonna go sleep. She's gonna have a good sleep, because when you ejaculate, you have a good sleep. You know what I mean? But when you don't, you kind of keep all that energy in, and it's like you're kind of brimming with energy. And if you set out in your fast in that same way without ejaculating, you're gonna be able to hold that same energy over how many days that you're fasting. I've not really gone over 72 hours as far as a fast is concerned. I've almost gone to 4 days. I think the most I've done is like 76 hours or 78 hours, which compared to Ezra and Yahushua and Moses, is a speck of time. Even Ezra fasted 7 days, and we'll get into it here. This is Ezra 8:21. This is before I'm going to get into, his fasting for 7 days. Then I proclaimed the fast there at the river of Ahava, that we might humble ourselves before our power, to seek from him the right way for us and our little ones and all our possessions. For I was ashamed to request of the king an escort of soldiers and horsemen to help us against the enemy on the road, because we had spoken to the king, saying, the hand of our power is upon all those for good who seek him, but his power and his wrath are against all those who forsake him. And this is when Ezra was traveling with the Hebrews back to Jerusalem to build it back up, and they didn't necessarily want to go with bodyguards, so on and so forth, because Ezra relied on his power and he didn't want to ask for help, and how they sought protection from their power was to fast. So I always go into how important fasting is. If you're having a problem, if you're feeling these demons coming against you, the best thing you could do is take a few days out. It's just so happen I the way I work my schedule, I like to work a block of days on and take a block of days off, and I like to work a block of hours on those days that I work. So you might do 10 or 12 hours instead of doing like 6 or 8 hours and spreading that over a period of days. I'd rather work like 10, 12 hours, maybe even 14 hours over a couple of days, and I know I can have 3-4 days off, because you concentrate the amount of work that you're doing in those small amounts of days, if it's possible for you to be able to do that, because we all have different rotas and different time schedules, due to the different constraints of these different businesses that we work for, these so-called friggin' plantations, And this is 2nd Esdras 5:20. And so I fasted 7 days, mourning and weeping, like as Uriel the angel commanded me. And this, Esdras, sorry, my apologies. First one was Ezra. This is Esdras, where he saw those visions when he was in the field and he was eating nothing but flowers, and he fasted 7 days, mourning and weeping. And mourning and weeping, you crying while you're praying is, a great way to humble yourself before the Father, because we all know he works in complete balance. So if he knows you're of a sorrowful spirit, what he's going to do is he's going to put a spirit on you to lift you up, And if you're constantly in a house of mirth, what he's going to do is he's going to humble you. And these people in the world were in a house of mirth all the days of their life, and now they're being completely humbled, in the same way that we're being exalted, and we're seeing our power, kind of right the wrongs, and bringing an end slowly. We can see the beginning of it to this society, and that uplifts us, and that excites us. We're happy to see these, and people say, oh, you're in a bad spirit, you're mean, you're evil, you're always negative. But this world is full of negativity. It just so happens that people take negativity to be positive, because they're completely dumbfounded and been completely immersed in this world, that when they see something completely degenerate, they see it as positive. Like, I watch people in my family, I was watching them watch RuPaul, and if anyone doesn't know about that, it's some drag guy, and these are old school people I'm watching, like my grandparents, older other people, and they're sitting there and they're watching this. And I know 10-20 years ago they would have been like, this is an abomination, but because they're so into the world, they have this whole live and let live mentality, and they don't actually understand how these people read into your children and putting a degenerate spirit and a reprobate spirit into the world creates the kind of it creates the same vibration that they really hate, but they don't see how one thing connects to another. I was even talking to somebody the other day, and it was like, you jump from subject to subject, and I'm like, in my opinion, I wasn't jumping from subject to subject. I feel like all things are interconnected and correlated to each other. So you might talk about feminism, and you see how feminism connects to the downfall of the family, and you see how the downfall of the family connects to the moral decay of society, and you see how the moral decay of society is going to lead to the destruction of it ultimately. But when you go from one point to the other, a lot of people, because they they're really small-minded and very small vision. The Lord hasn't put that spirit on them for them to be able to comprehend information in a way that it's supposed to be comprehended. They don't see how one thing connects to the other. They see it as you going from 1 to 10. But really you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whereas they're the ones that are actually going from, they'll go from 2 to 50, and the things that they do don't make any sense, because you want to live a degenerate life, but you want to have healthy relationships. Like, I know women who want to sleep around and act like hoes. They even call themselves hoe, but then they'll accuse me of calling them a hoe, and I'll be like, I never called you a hoe, you called yourself a hoe. And they'll be like, oh yeah, you're right. And they still expect to find a good man and to live a life where they're happy, and that doesn't make sense. There's no correlation between living like a whore and then finding a good man. If you want a good man, you live and you act like a decent woman. But you can't reason with these people. These people think they can do whatever they want, and they're gonna have a happy ending. And the Lord doesn't work like that. Again, the Lord is complete balance. So if you're a complete reprobate, you're not. People say, well, if he's balanced, well, you can be a reprobate and you reap good. No, that's not balance. That's not reaping what you sow. You know what I mean? You reap what you sow, man. But this is Matthew 23:11, and another example of the Lord's complete balance and perfect judgment. And whoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. Now again, this goes into fasting. People like to do intermittent fasting, and when you do intermittent fasting, it actually prepares your body to be able to go for periods without food. So when we had that Day of Atonement, I didn't really, it was nothing to me, because I'm used to going periods without food, where some people are not able to do that, so it might be more stressful on them physically. And you're not even really fasting on the Day of Atonement. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but to me it's not a true fast, because you can eat during the day before, and you just don't eat at night, and the next day you don't eat during the day, but you can eat at night. So it's not like you've gone to sleep without putting something in your belly, but it's still a 24-hour period. I believe a true fast is no food, no water, over a period of days. So the Day of Atonement, that's why Yahushua said, what did he say? His yoke isn't grievous, and I'm paraphrasing here, but what he asks of you is not really grievous when you really break it down. What these people do is they make it seem as if your life is easy, but in the long run it's grievous onto you. Now with Yahweh, it's completely opposite. In the short term it seems grievous, but in the long run, what do you get? You get everlasting life, you get wisdom, you understand all these things that these people don't see, because they're short-term thinkers. You have to be a long-term thinker, because again, it's balance. You suffer in the short term, but in the long term you reap the benefit. If you want to reap the benefit in the short term, you're going to suffer in the long term. That's just how things are set up. And I'm gonna finish off here. What's this? Wisdom of Solomon. Well, I'll start off Wisdom of Solomon here. For these thou didst admonish and try as a father, but the other as a severe king thou didst condemn and punish. Now I've gone through this before, but I'm just gonna, before I get on to the next point, we're punished as children by the Most High, but the other nations, they're punished as like an authoritarian punishes them. There's no. This is just further proof that the Most High only cares for Israel, and he treats them as his children, and he condemns the other nations as a king, but he doesn't necessarily do that to his children. But we can see, because he's complete balance, he even admonishes his own children, which is why Moses wasn't able to visit the land, even though he saw it with his own eyes. And this is Deuteronomy 34. And Moses went up from the plains of Moab onto the mountain of Nebo to the top of Pisgah, that is over against Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead unto Dan, and all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, and all the land of Judah unto the utmost sea, and the south, and the plain of the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees, unto Zoar. And the Lord said unto him, This is the land which I swore unto Abraham, unto Isaac, And unto Jacob, saying, I will give it unto thy seed. I have caused thee to see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not go over hither. So Moses, the servant of Yahweh, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord, and he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, over against Pethpoor. But no man knoweth of his sepulchre unto this day. And Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes was not dim, nor his natural force abated. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai.